So here we have the second lord falling into the 12th house. So Parashara, the ancient rishi who is such a key originator of all things Vedic astrology, Parashara tells us that we have the wealth lord here abiding in the loss Bhava. Most things falling into the 12th house are considered to be difficult. The 12th house is a house of loss. It's not an upachaya house like the 10th and 11th house are. So it's one of the houses that are just generally considered to be a house of loss. A house of sort of losing things. Although the 12th house is an important house with regard to moksha. So when things go well in the 12th house, you're losing material things, but gaining a lot of inner emotional wealth. Hard to understand unless you have seen it in action and been a mystically minded person. But I digress. Parashara here is saying that the wealth lord, the second lord, abides in the lost Bhava. So there's moksha, there's tapas, there's discipline that's going to come from losing wealth. This person tends to be rash. They're deprived of wealth. They're fond of others' prosperity. And by no means will there be happiness on account of the eldest child. The oldest child, the firstborn son or daughter. Very interesting. You know, this is the 12th house is the, let's see, it's the 8th from the 5th. So the second lord here, which, you know, the second lord does have to do with your family, with your social situation, especially with your early childhood family dynamics and your immediate family. And it kind of does carry on into your own children, your own family. When you have your own husband and have your own kids. So now we have the second lord in the 12th house. It's in the 11th from itself, and the 12th house, right? If you understand what I mean, the 11th from the second is the 12th, and as well, the 12th house is the 8th from the 5th house, and the 8th is a place of instability. So we can kind of see where that juxtaposition of not being so good for one's children. The eldest child in particular is interesting. I'd say the 11th house has to do with eldest things. So the second lord being in the 11th from itself, the eldest child is going to have this antagonism. I digress. These are interesting things to think about, where Parashara gets these enigmatic things. But what Parashara says is always just good, deep, intuitive gold. So this person's rash, deprived of wealth, fond of others' prosperity. And this fondness for others' prosperity probably comes from the feeling that they lacked or didn't receive their own prosperity when they were young and in childhood. This is the theme that's always the second house theme. The good news about the second house is that whenever there's a lack, whenever there's negative affliction happening, and there will always be a little bit with the second lord in the 12th, you're kind of set up to not feel like you're getting enough out of life when you're young. There's a loss. There's a feeling like it's gonna go. Like you're waiting for the hammer drop anytime for us to be poor again. Like your parents kind of probably financially fluctuate, or there's something that has to happen where you have to let go of your toys, or your parents are always encouraging you. If this goes well in a positive way, your parents are going to always teach you not to hold on too hard to any material thing, to wealth, to luxury. If this is going well, then you've got those parents who are taking you out in camping trips, and all you've got is candles and a book for months with your parents and your friends, going camping, having a very simple life where the material things that you might take for granted are always kind of slipping away. This teaches you to appreciate them when they're there, and to appreciate the Krishna, the Vasudev, the energy that's shuttling as the hidden truth of love and beingness, the essence of truth, the essence of being, which shuttles through all the material forms. The material forms disappear, but Vasudeva, the love of the soul that we attract and move through and that moves through us, is always the same eternal one. And this is the kind of consciousness that you get to love with the second Lord in the 12th through your transmutation of your own desire for security, for more, for the material comforts that most people have. When it's going really well, this can make for a good monk-like consciousness. But when it's not going well, it doesn't exactly set you up for emotional stability and relationship success. It's particularly when there's afflictions. This person can have compensations, feeling like there's something that I'm doing that makes, they can be very tired. They cannot have a good diet, and they sacrifice their diet, their health, their luxury, sometimes for the wrong reasons. And sometimes they can also be very lazy, despondent, desiring of pleasures, especially bed pleasures, and a sleepy kind of sexuality. It's they can be very lustful, and the second house lust, when this is, especially when there's big afflictions here, there's a lack of feeling of belonging when you're a child. And this moves through puberty as feeling like I'm not valuable, second house. I'm not valuable enough to gain a love partner, a sexual erotic partner. And this sticks to the person long into their life, to the point where they start to take it personally. They feel victimized, that life did not give me what I needed to feel emotionally cool and secure and calm and confident like all the other guys or like all the other girls around me. I'm introverted, I'm insecure, I don't feel emotionally or financially stable, because they follow each other. And this energy can cause you to feel later on that it's hard to keep responsibilities in a relationship, because you almost feel like it can drift away at any time. Like most securing things feel like they could drift away at any time. But that doesn't mean, if you're hearing this and you're reading, you're like, wow, that's totally me. And I had that stuff when I went through my childhood. The good news is that the second house can always be worked out if you go through therapy. If you go to a therapist, check in with a loved one, and work through, admit to yourself the things that happened in your childhood that make you feel like you need to compensate, that make you feel like you're not worthy, that make you feel like there's no hope for me being in any relationship because it's all going to drift and disappear anyway, or that my health is going to go at some point, or that, I can't commit to a job, I can't commit to any kind of wealth, to anything in my life, because I just know my health could disappear at any time. Even if your health does disappear, commitments to things is very satisfying for someone with anything in the 12th house. Also, being able to let things slip through your fingers if you have to is important too. But this doesn't mean you can't listen to the authority of your nervous system telling you that it's okay and healthy to have and maintain meaningful relationships with people in your family, with friends, and with jobs, and with a career. Your nervous system will tell you that. And if you listen to it, trust it, develop it, and recognize that if there's afflictions here, you didn't fully get the best sense of what your nervous system should be attuned to. And you can learn about that. And you should learn about that from other people. The Karaka of the 12th house is Saturn. The Karaka is an extra house. It's like all no matter what sign, no matter your rising sign, the 12th house has Saturn for a Karaka. The second house has Jupiter for a Karaka. So if Saturn and Jupiter are really messed up in your chart, you can expect that this combination is going to go awry. The second house, Jupiter, is like the luck of having the positive mentality. With the 12th house, Saturn is about accepting when you have to let things go. So if you've got a bad Saturn and the 12th house loss happens, you're going to take it personally. You're not going to trust again that a good thing could come to you. You're going to feel like the world just attacked you with this loss. And I'm vulnerable. I have no defense against losing something I love. If I loved somebody and they left me, or I had to leave them for some reason. My parents, I was young. I fell in love with a girl at 13, but we had to move to Pennsylvania away from our home, and I had to leave this girlfriend behind, and now I'm completely torn. My heart got torn out with this person who I had to leave behind, and that was a shock. The world attacked me, and now I'm never going to fall in love again. I'm not going to let that happen again. That's like an ill Saturn. A person could have a good Jupiter for the second house and still have the feeling like I can get another love. I'm of good breeding. I've got people, I've got a wellness and a mindset, but I'm still got really dinged up by that loss. And all the losses dig very deep for the person who has the second lord in the 12th house with a bad Saturn. Having a good Saturn will really help to work this stuff out. So I could talk a lot about all of it. Let's dig into our reading. This comes from The Art and Science of Vedic Astrology by Ryan Kirksack and Richard Fish. These guys always do a good job. This is like a great textbook for all the Bhava yogas and more. So whenever we read from what these guys write about the Bhava yogas, they always give two completely opposite readings. They give a positive reading and they give a negative reading. The positive influences of this yoga are going to be there specifically for this one if there's positive things going on, if there's no afflictions, basically. If we're talking like, here's an easy one. Taurus rising. Oh, no, that wouldn't work. Aquarius rising. Aquarius rising with Saturn in the 12th house. Still kind of icky because Saturn doesn't like being close to the first house. And you've got the first lord in the 12th. Like, what's going on with my brain on this? No, I was right on that. Taurus rising. Got it. Okay, I know what I was trying to say here. Sorry, folks. For some reason, I was thinking we were at the first house in the 12th. Let's say we've got an Aries rising. Taurus is the second house. And so we've got Venus ruling the second house. And we put Venus in the 12th house of Pisces. That's what I was trying to figure out. That's like a nice exalted second lord. The second lord is exalted in the 12th house. And let's say it's got Jupiter there. What the heck? Jupiter's going to be starved by that Venus, so maybe that's not our best. You could put Mercury there, but Mercury is debilitated, but that'd still be good for the second lord anyway. So we've got Mercury in the 12th house with Venus. Mercury is a friend to Venus. That's going to help the Venus. And let's say, what the heck, that Jupiter's in trine to the two of them in Cancer. So Jupiter, exalted in Cancer, is trine this Venus in the 12th house as the second house lord. These are all these connections you make. So let's say this Venus, let's say the 12th house has the second lord in it and it's very well placed and there's no afflictions. That's what you'd expect from the positive side of this reading. It would still have some loss and some difficulty, because that's the nature of the 12th house. But the loss would add up to an appreciation for things in the way I mentioned in the beginning. It would actually help to positively refine your personality. So you appreciate relationships. So you appreciate money when you have it. You appreciate comforts when they come. And you can have a monastic mindset where you can be very comfortable off very little. So we read these kinds of things in the positive indications of the second lord in the 12th house. And then we'll read the exact opposite with the second lord in the second lord in the 12th house with the negative implications. So this is like when you have a bad situation going on here. Like if I was to think of one, Leo rising. Yeah, that would work. Leo rising. Mercury rules the second house. So let's put Mercury for Leo rising in Cancer. Mercury has the moon for an enemy, so it's being starved or thirsted by the moon in the sign of Cancer. It likes to be in the Mercury is okay in the 12th house because it likes to be close to the first house, so that's not so bad. But let's say Mercury is in Cancer in the 12th house as the second house lord, and it is combusted by the sun, and it's, let's throw Saturn in there for good measure. You got all this affliction happening, or let's say you got these two malefics and you've got Rahu there, so that Mercury is shamed, and it's shamed because when you've got the node in a malefic, it's shaming any other planet that's in there. So there's all sorts of gross stuff happening in that 12th house. This is all stuff that can be afflictions to the second lord in the 12th house, let's say. And this would bring the difficulty. This would bring out the negative implications. Now, most people are going to be a combination of both, right? Most people aren't going to be strictly bad or good. So listen to the good stuff, see how you can see yourself in it, and then listen to the bad stuff and figure that as the things that you got to look for and how you can understand it. There's always going to be some bad stuff with any planet in the 12th. That bad stuff is teaching you how to let go of your expectations of what you... This is what the 12th house teaches us. Let go of your expectations of whatever house lord is in the 12th. In this case, it's the second. You got to let go of your expectations of comfort, material comfort, having relationships, feeling like relationships are easy because you're beautiful. You got to let go of those assumptions with this type of thing. In general, that's what the second lord in the 12th is teaching you. So first, let's talk about the good stuff, okay? Things that are expected to work properly. The ruler of the second and the 12th tends to work in warehouses, working second house in warehouses. 12th house, kind of isolated places. They spend on travels to distant lands and pilgrimages, spending through the second on these things. And they spend money on worthy spiritual causes, pilgrimages, going to yoga retreats, fasting, things that might even clean them out, helps out the people. They go to like an ayahuasca grove and they pay the ayahuasqueros or the peyoteros, the people doing these medicines, and they're also, by gaining the medicine, cleaning themselves out, having this kind of experience, they're also providing money to these people who are so dedicated to healing and to developing these plants that are used as medicine. That's an example of somebody who can use those things in a positive way. This could also be somebody who uses those in a negative way. Those things can happen too. When things are still looking good with the positive indications, this person with the second lord in the 12th supports educational and correctional institutions, schools, as well as prisons that are, or therapeutic places that are working to help people. The second lord in the 12th develops a monastic personality, for sure. Again, it's somebody who can be happy with little, right? They tend to be introduced to a healthy spirituality early in their childhood, and to understand the benefit of it through their experience, through how it can relieve suffering. This person may work in hospitals. That's a 12th house thing, more of that isolation theme. They tend to only speak, second throat chakra, they tend to only speak when necessary, which can be a very positive thing, although there can be loss on the other end. They benefit from vows of silence and fasting in particular. This person, through that second house, can talk, the second house can talk itself into an abyss and can drain themselves by always needing to chat too much. A positive second house lord is going to learn how to speak effectively and concisely when you need to. And a vow of silence teaches you to appreciate words. When you're in a vipassana, I think it's called, spend 7 days not speaking, you learn a lot from it. Fasting is the same thing with food, with diet, with your basic habits. You begin to appreciate when you can eat, when you go on a fast for a few days, right? I think everybody with this position can learn from that and should experience and apply those things. And this person probably will somewhere along the line. You know, it would be unfortunate for them to just go without food because they have to, because they don't have the money for it and their family doesn't have the money for it, but that's a way of them learning as well. So this video is already long enough. When the negative implications happen with the second lord in the 12th house, right? If there's afflictions, there's obvious afflictions with the second lord or the 12th lord or the houses within them, then what we can expect is this person has many expenses. The second house, your basic financial ground, just keeps getting pissed away on something. One's eldest child can cause one hardship and suffering, as we saw through Parashara. The first child one has can cause this sort of hardship. There's a difficult time of getting used to the world and you getting used to them. The second lord in the 12th can live off others as charity. They can be impatient. They sort of can be parasitic towards other people's money. They're impatient, too impatient to develop their own financial stability. There's loss due to speech. The second house lord, which relates to the throat, is being pissed away through the 12th house. So lost through speech. You say the wrong thing and it goes. This person can waste money trying to get enlightened. A lot of their second house energy gets pissed away. As I said, it could very easily happen. This person goes to do ayahuasca in Peru. I've met people like that who go down there. They do ayahuasca over and over and over again to keep cleaning themselves out. They keep paying the medicine man to keep the medicine going through me, and they never actually take anything home with it. I need the sacrament, I need the ceremony, I need the cleansing, I need the therapy, and they keep circling and going to therapy and over again just to have the feeling that they're healing, but they spend a lot of money and time on it, and they can waste money trying to do these things to get enlightened. Therapy will probably show you that and reflect that on you. What we read here is more of like spiritual sublimation. It's like somebody who is kind of just jerking themselves off, trying to do things that are not actually helping their enlightenment process. This is like lily pad leapfrogging from guru to guru to guru to guru, but never actually learning techniques and applying them. Because if you were to apply the techniques of one branch, you would be actually getting into the process of letting go of the freedom to try many paths to enlightenment by sticking to one and actually working deeply at it. You dig 1,000 holes 1 foot deep, you're not going to get to the water. You got to dig one hole 1,000 feet deep and actually get to it. And it takes a commitment, and that commitment is tough for a person with the second lord in the 12th house, because I've never felt like anything was going to add up to anything because of my childhood. That's usually what happens there. So they waste money on promising enlightenment things, and they'll throw a lot of money at it, and once the money goes away, then they stop going to the enlightenment thing, and then they lose their enlightenment. Oh no, I've got no more money for my ayahuasca trips. Now I can't be enlightened anymore. Well, how enlightened were you really? This is what these people have to look out for. This person can be prone to fines and penalties. They can lose money due to hospitalization, imprisonment, or foreign travel. Again, the losing money is a second house thing. They're prone to thievery, feeling like they don't have enough, so they gotta kind of once in a while just, the world's been stealing from me since I was born, so it doesn't matter if I steal a little bit. These kind of attitudes can happen. Which of course only continues the cycle. You are what you are. You are what you be. You are what you put out. This person can spend impulsively. They have difficulty providing for their family. They get paid too little. And this could be a subjective thing, or it could be like they're actually not getting enough and they don't know how to climb up to gaining more in their second house, because the second house is your basic like status level. It's like the amount of money that you make in your salary, again, if you didn't have the childhood reckoning and education to push you towards higher echelons of society, you might have that memory inside you, and when money tends to disappear from you, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm poor people, and this is what happens to poor people. And that mentality can get stuck there. And you don't advocate for yourself, you don't climb higher up the ladder, you don't vocalize the radiant material abundance of creating more wealth for yourself. This person's sleep and dreams can be disturbed by food. The food that they eat, not eating at the right time, not having a solid relationship and a solid rhythm to your food. This person loses their voice easily, and they waste energy talking too much about unimportant things. This person feels starved, feels like they're not getting enough, they never got enough, and talking, they can lose their voice just by, they waste energy pissing it away, talking about unimportant things, and then they don't have a voice in the right moments when they're supposed to have it. These are the things that can be expected by having the second lord afflicted in the 12th house, right? So again, all afflictions in the second house just come down to what happened to you when you were younger, and consider that this might be a cleanup incarnation where you're just cleaning up the karma of the second house through the 12th house. It has the ability to be a positive spiritual reckoning. If there's a lot of afflictions there, it can be tough to see that. It could be a bitter pill to swallow that life has handed you a cleanup incarnation. But if you don't take it personally, this is your own action from past lives that's caused you to be in this place. And it's still love. It's still Krishna. It's still a life. It's still your experience. And you can make the best out of it. It's just your childhood memories that are stopping you from recognizing that the world is the same world for you as it is for everybody else. You just got the wrong attitude from it by the way that you grew up. But that can always be remediated to some degree. At some level, you do have to accept that there's part of you that's going to feel unsatisfied and always a little starved, But feed yourself. Give yourself what you need to not feel starved. You deserve it just like everybody else does, and it will help if you start telling yourself these things. I digress. This video is already long enough. The example I gave here was Marlon Brando. We have here Sagittarius rising with a nice happy chappy Capricorn with this exalted Mars. There's actually a mutual yoga going on here between Mars and Saturn. Mars is happy with it. Saturn is not necessarily. This is a tough Saturn. This is a tough place to have Saturn in Scorpio, where it's the sign of an enemy, and it's in the 12th house, and Saturn doesn't like being close to the first house. So it's amazing that Marlon Brando did so great in his career. It's probably because this Rahu Lord in the 10th is in the 5th house, that Mercury. Tough Saturn. It's a tough place for Saturn, tough place for the second Lord. But the second house has this happy, exalted Mars here, so maybe that's part of why he ended up doing good. Very interesting. I'd like to dig more into that. The mutual yoga of the second Lord and the 12th Lord being switched like that. there would be a lot of what we've talked about here in Marlon Brando's life. Because the Mars is doing good, it's probably a good thing, but the Saturn is doing bad. I'd like to read into it more, but not in this video. I'm Dustin Cormier. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this series. Let me know what you think in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.